Hey besties and welcome to my channel. So we did take a week off, not intentionally. I just got so enveloped in the series that we're talking about today, which is the Legacy of God series. And Rena Kent, you put some magic into these books because I gotta tell you, I only made it through the first three so far, and I'm halfway through four, and now I own them, as you can see. I don't make commitments to books this quickly, but I needed to own them because I knew I was going to love them. And I will be reading all the other books in this series as well. I was unaware that there were other books, but now that I know, I'm going to be going through them. I went to see my queen, Ariana, on Saturday, and it was worth the 4.5 hour drive to Boston to do that. She was better than I remember. And if this is her last tour, I'm glad I got to be there. It was an experience. I cannot wait for Petals to come out. So today I did make you guys a PowerPoint on the Legacy of God series. I went through books 1 through 3 with you guys. So that is what we're going to be doing today. It is a dark romance. So there is going to be a lot of triggers. So if you have any triggers, if you have anything, protect your heart, make sure this is something for you and something that's going to be safe for you. And if it's not, that's fine. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, let all your friends know about our bestie times, and let's get into it. Okay, so as you can see, I got a bunch of pictures off of Pinterest and I made this little thing for you guys. So we're going to talk about the first three books: God of Malice, God of Pain, and God of Wrath. And we're going to go into the God of Malice characters. They are Glendon and Killian Carson, Glendon King. And yeah, they are just perfect specimens of people. So let's talk about the trigger warnings. There is non-consent, dub consent. So non-consent is like, it's like an essay in a way, but I guess it's like, if you read it, if you're not used to dark romance, you would consider it essay. So that if essay is a trigger for you, I would not listen to this video. There are suicidal thoughts, and there's a morally black male main character with questionable actions. He is written to be a psychopath in a sense and not have any feelings for anyone other than himself. All his feelings and emotions are learned. He basically is just supposed to be described as a monster. So if those are triggers for you, go ahead and click off. We're going to get into it. Here we go. So Glendon is an art student at Royal Elite University. Her parents are Asher and Levi. She has twin brothers, Landon and Brandon. And then Brandon is sensitive, whereas Landon is described to be more of Killian. And I think that's why Glendon gravitates towards Killian, is because she relates to it, because she is used to that kind of behavior with Landon. She is constantly feeling like she is less talented than her brothers and her mom, because her mom is a world-renowned artist. Her brothers are super talented. You know, Landon is an amazing sculptor. Brandon does more of like these scenery pieces, and Glendon is kind of in a which way up kind of feel. So her cousins are Eli and Creighton. Creighton will be the main character of book 2. Eli will be of the last book, is what I've been told. So her friends are Cecily Knight, Ava Nash, Remington or Remy, and Annika. Annika just moved there from the US, and she has a brother named Jeremy. And then we get into Killian, who is a 4th-year med student at 19 at King's University. He is a member of the Heathens, which is, it's kind of like a fraternity, I guess, for lack of a better word. His parents are Asher and Raina, and his brother is Gareth, and they are completely the opposite. As described, Gareth is the one with the green mask. And his cousins are Nikolai, Mia, and Maya, who are part of the Russian Bratva, as they would say it. And his friend is Jeremy, who is Annika's brother. He's described to be like a true psychopath. And There's no way of taming him. And he is obsessed with Glyndon in like every sense of the word that you can think of. Like from the moment he lays eyes on her, this man is down bad. And like, you shouldn't want a psycho to be down bad for you, but you know what? It works. And I instantly fell in love with Killian. I don't know why. It's just the kind of person, he is so funny. And he's like unintentionally funny, but like you read the things he says and it's like, I can't believe that just came out of your mouth. But hilarious because he's so honest, because he just doesn't have that filter, because like they try to say, he is a true psychopath. But I digress. Let's get on to it. So their meet cute moment is she is feeling sad and depressed because her friend had self-exited. I believe it was a year prior, and she's just thinking about doing the same thing because she's in such a depression because she just can't handle the pressure of being the daughter of her mother and the sister of her brothers, because they're also talented, and she feels like she just doesn't compare. So he comes out of nowhere and takes a picture of her, and she like slips and he catches her, but he tells her that he'll only pull her up if she gives him something in return, i.e., the essay in question. And she is not happy with the fact that she is so attracted to him, so turned on by him. She is trying to fight it with like everything of her being, because she's like, I can't believe this man is making me give him something in return for saving my life and not letting me fall off this cliff. And why is he calling me falling off this cliff a masterpiece? Because he's gonna take a picture of me splattered everywhere, you know. But he ends up pulling her up and they have their first sexual encounter, and she cannot fathom the fact that she cannot stop thinking about it after the fact, because she's like, you know, this man assaulted me, he essayed me, and like I didn't want to do that, but did I want to do that? And like he just becomes so obsessed with her after the fact, because it's like a kink for him that she is inexperienced, you know, she's beautiful, and he just can't like get her out of his head. So let's move to his obsession, where it starts. So she's trying to forget about it and she can't get him out of her head. She figures out that he's someone to be feared and wants nothing to do with him from Annika, really, because she's like trying to find out more about this man, and she's like, no, he's bad news. But she realizes that he's kind of like Landon, because she's grown up with Landon, who's had like that. He's not like a normal brother. He doesn't have the same feelings that her and Bran do, and he feels antisocial, and she can't help but feel drawn to him. So he's fascinated by her, and he's always watching her, stalking her, because she didn't look at him the way that everyone else does, out of fear or out of like just desire for the way that he looks, or like just wanting to be one of his ones. You know, she combats him, and he's always testing her limits, and he just becomes infatuated with pushing her past her limits and seeing how far she'll go for him. And she starts to realize that like she's trying to avoid him, but he remembers everything about her, details about her that like no one else is bothered to remember, and he's just decided in his own mind that like she belongs to him. That's his woman, and he doesn't even want a woman. He's never even felt the need for that. You know, he just she quiets his demons, and he enjoys the silence, I guess is what it is what he says later on in the book. Then we move on, and like I said, she fears Landon, but it makes her understand Killian better. But it also makes her worry, because like if she does end up falling for Killian, Landon's not going to be too happy about it. But Killian becomes controlling over everyone she speaks to. He starts bringing her food eventually because he thinks that she's eating garbage. He makes sure she's drinking water. He feels super protective of her. They go to the school fight club, because like the school has like 3 different crews or fraternities, I guess. The heathens, the elites, and then the serpents. But the serpents are like kind of losers who nobody really cares about. The big ones are the heathens and the elites. So Nikolai is supposed to fight Creighton, but Killian makes a deal with Glyndon that if he loses to Creighton on purpose, she has to follow him to wherever he wants to take her. And you know, during the fight, he hears Glendon cheering for Creighton, and he immediately like snaps his freaking head back and is like, "Oh, she's cheering his name. I'm gonna beat the shit out of him." And he does until she finally says his name, and then he stops fighting back and lets Creighton beat him up and let Creighton win. And then they go off to wherever he wants to take her. So he takes her to this lake to see these fireflies, and she's infatuated with the sight of it. You know, it's beautiful to see a million fireflies. Bugs are gross, but you know what? Looking at them is beautiful. And she feels special that she finds out she's the only girl he's shown it to, or only person really, because he did say that he has experimented with men. He asked her why she's a virgin because it's a big deal. He doesn't understand it because, you know, she's 19, and she stretches that she just didn't feel like it. She didn't feel like anyone was worth it. And that makes him feel good because, you know, her obsession with this guy, Devlin, who is dead, he was like, I'm glad that she didn't feel like he was worth it. And he told her that she won't be a virgin for long because he plans on taking that virginity because, you know, she's his now. So it's not like a surprise to her. And then he asks her, she asks why he smokes, and he told her it's keeps his hands and mouth busy, and that if she doesn't want him to smoke, she needs to keep his hands and mouth busy. And that's what I mean. He just says things, and it's like, oh, okay, fair. Like, how is she supposed to keep your hands and mouth busy all the time? She's not with you all the time, but I feel like it's his intention to have her with him all the time. So he realizes that he loves talking to her, and it's not like a thing of, oh, he's on a mission to just take her virginity and run. He loves being around this girl. Talking to her makes him feel good. And he has like a huge collections of pictures of her now. He just randomly takes pictures of her from afar. And now he has pictures of her when they hang out together. And he's just developing them in his little, what are those called? Dark rooms. And then the initiation comes. And I just had to get you a picture of everybody because this is how they're described. You know, Gareth with his green mask, Jeremy with his orange mask, Killian with his red mask, Nico with his yellow mask, and then we have White Mask, who is unnamed. I'm trying not to get myself spoiled on that, but he is unnamed for now. So the heathens hold this initiation every year. It's kind of like, this is how you get into the fraternity. And I feel like it's a mixture of like Hunger Games and Squid Games. Like, it's go hide and run, and if we find you, you're out. And they use weapons. So Gareth has like a bow and arrow, and then Jeremy's got a golf club. Killian's got a fucking bat. Nico's a fucking lunatic, and he's like, I'm just gonna beat people up with my bare hands because why not? And then the White Mask guy has a chain, and I'm very worried about that chain because it's like, how is he just grabbing people by the leg and pulling them? Like anyway, they all start running, and someone invited Glendon to this. She got like a invite QR code to be part of the initiation, and she starts running. She just is fascinated by it. So she shows up, starts running like everybody else, watches the freaking turmoil of everybody beating people up. She sees Killian take out like 5 guys with the bat at once. He gets hit in the head by one guy, and it's like it didn't even do anything. It's like it didn't even affect him. And it's just a fucking massacre of these fucking people. But once he notices her, he abandons the hunt and just goes to follow her. And I'm telling you, like, it's like he just knew automatically that it was her, and just it's like I don't know if he smelled her blood or something, but yep, he followed her. And that's when her nickname Little Rabbit is born, because, you know, they're having everybody wear like a rabbit mask. So he catches her and like kind of hits her out of a tree, and she's like, oh, what if you hit me? And he goes, I wouldn't have hit you. And I didn't, so it's fine. And they end up like hooking up after he catches her, but she makes him promise to give more time for her virginity. So they end up just 69ing because her mask is 69. And he's like says like he's basically addicted to her taste and all this stuff, and like he can't wait to take her for dinner. It's like a big story plot line. It's a little cringe, but he can't wait for that to happen. And she gets jealous when some random girl, Cherry, comes up and kisses him because apparently she won the initiation, because Killian walks Glendon to the line and Glendon thinks that she's about to win, and then he like pokes her with the bat and then she's out. And she gets so mad because he's like, you don't need to be a part of this group. You don't need to be in here. This is not for you. And she gets really upset because the girl ends up winning, and then she kisses him, and she tells Killian to leave her alone. And he was like, oh, if you don't come back here, I'm gonna fuck this girl. And she's like, whatever, go ahead, and then leaves. And she goes inside the mansion because she couldn't figure out how to get out, and Gareth helps her leave the mansion, and they end up making like a deal that she'll keep Killian busy if he gets her information about Devlin's death, because apparently his death happened at the day after the initiation or something. So because she's mad that she thinks he's hooking up with this cherry girl, she paints a picture of a guy that looks like the exact opposite of Killian, and she posted it on Instagram and is like, that's my type. And he immediately texts her and says, like, fuck, he is. And it was immediate, and she just ignores him, and she just continues to ignore him. So he gets really pissed off, and he skips his class to go to her school and sees her talking to one of her male friends, Stuart. That's his fucking name. His name's Stuart. And they're talking, and he goes, oh, hi, nice to meet you, Stuart. I'm Killian, Glendon's boyfriend. And the guy is like, okay, Glenn, and I'll catch you later. He goes, Glendon. Her name is Glendon, not Glenn. And the guy's like, okay. And he gets scared. He runs away. And Glenn's like, you can't just scare away everybody that's talking to me. And he goes, yeah, I can, because you're mine. And you need to stop wasting time with these other people. So he invites her to Nico's party, and she ends up bringing Ava and Cecily and Annika, which Annika doesn't really want to be there because if Jeremy sees her, she's going to get locked up, because Jeremy's like a little crazy overprotective brother. But we'll get more into their situation when we get to her book. I'm kind of just skipping around. So they all disappear, go their separate ways, and she follows Gareth upstairs because she sees him talking about something with Jeremy, and then they end up talking about their deal, and he's like getting her information, but he decides he's gonna go and kiss her like a fucking lunatic, like he has a death wish or something, and Killian loses his shit and like slams him into the wall. And then he carries Glendon to his room, and they end up sleeping together, and it's because he like feels like it, Gareth kissed her before he even got to kiss her. He's hooked up with her, but he hasn't kissed her, and Gareth had the audacity to do it, so he doesn't want to feel like he's trying to stake his claim, and he feels like him just saying that she's his isn't like enough. So clearly, because Gareth thought he could kiss her and get away with it, so he's like, we're gonna have to make this official. So they hook up, she loses her virginity to him, and then they fall asleep, and he has her on him like she's a blanket, laying right on top of him. That's where he feels comfortable. And she tries to leave, but the guys are all downstairs, and they start talking to her. Nico's sleeping on the floor because for some reason he can't sleep in a fucking bed, and they all start talking to her. Nico's like talking about how beautiful she is, and like talks about her brother. And then Killian comes downstairs and pushes her against the wall and like savagely makes out with her in front of everybody, and then brings her back to his room, lays her back on top of him, and is like, you're not fucking leaving, you're staying here. And then he does try to get her to skip school, but she's like, no, I'm not doing it. I'm already late. And he goes, exactly, you're already late, so you might as well skip and be with me. And she's like, no, that's not happening. So what he does is she gets back to her apartment or her dorm, and he posts a picture of them savagely making out on Instagram and tags her in it, and then writes like off limits. And that's how Landon finds out that they're dating. And he's like, okay, so since you're not answering your fucking phone and you're gonna keep hanging out with this guy, I'll make this clear. Go near him again and he's fucking dead. And then we move on, and Landon is in front of his car, Killian's car, and fucking keys the shit out of it and tells him, like, you're not good enough for my sister. And he goes, I'm a 4th-year law student. I'm a fucking legacy to an empire. Oh, and I'm your sister's boyfriend. And that's a fucking, like, that's what I mean. Like, he does not give a fuck. Like, Glendon is his, and that's it. He doesn't care who's fucking saying anything. And that's when Landon meets Mia. And she is a selective mute, so she speaks sign language, and he like insults her heavily by calling her a fucking mute. So she's cursing him the fuck out in sign language and talking about how he's an idiot. And then Landon gets pissed off because Brandon gets guilt tripped by Killian that, you know, Glendon wishes they were closer, and that's her favorite brother, and Brandon feels bad that he wishes that they were all closer. And then he goes to hang out with Killian, and Glendon's like, God damn, like everyone is under this guy's spell and I can't get away from him. And then she's like coming, like, you know, I might as well accept it. I'm gonna come out of my shell. I like him a lot, and I shouldn't, but I do. And then Landon ends up he gave Killian a week to break up with Glendon, and he did not, because he obviously didn't take him seriously. So Landon ends up kidnapping him with Creighton and them, and then starts fucking waterboarding the dude. And Killian's just like laughing, and it's not bothering him. And then Glendon ends up showing up, and she tells Landon, this is who I choose. I want to be with him, so you need to mind your business and let me have it because I'm an adult. And then Killian passes out and is like, oh, but you chose me, so you're officially mine. Ha ha ha. And then she makes it a thing of like, you know, I can't be with somebody and fall for somebody who doesn't take me seriously. You don't let me in. You don't tell me anything about yourself. So even though he did open up to her about like his struggles with his mom, because and his family, really, because, you know, Gareth is considered the golden boy because he's kind of normal. He doesn't have these tendencies. And when Killian was younger, he had cut open a mouse to see like the insides, and it scared his parents. So since that incident, he felt like they treated him differently. And it ends up being like, I guess they knew somebody in their past. I would know if I read the fucking book. So maybe going back. So that's why I have to go back, because I have to get the whole story. That the parent, she tells the mom like, oh, he feels this way, and I wish that you guys could feel good about, you know, yourself. Like, he brings her to New York to meet his parents, basically, and it makes her, you know, they love her, she loves them, and she's so excited because she can't wait, because now she's like, I can't wait for him to meet my family. And I'm a little worried about it, more so for him meeting my dad, because of he is who he is, but she knows her mom is more accepting of it, and she is happier than she's ever been with this guy. And she finds out, someone sends her like a video from, it's like security footage of Devlin at the last initiation, and I guess it was like a mind game thing, and Killian was like, told him like, why don't you just drop dead or something like that, and you're pathetic. And then the next day he unalived himself, and and she gets upset and leaves New York because she thinks that Killian's a monster. I don't know why. She already knew how he was, but she sees the video, and it's like, I guess out of context, because Killian knew Devlin better than she did, and he's telling her like, this man was not depressed, this man was playing you, and you fell for it, and I didn't think you'd be dumb enough to fall for it. And then they break up. She goes back to the UK, and then he blames Gareth, but it wasn't Gareth who did it. And his family has like this nice little moment where they kind of rebuild, I guess. Not really rebuild. It's like the dad is like, I'm sorry for treating you poorly, even though you're, you know, because you're different. I love you, and I just didn't want a certain life for you. And Gareth is the same, and now they go back to the UK because obviously they have to find out who the fuck sent the video to Glendon, and they find out that fucking Devlin's alive. And that shit is crazy. And apparently he was part of the Serpents, and him doing the initiation with the heathens was just to, I don't even know, like to start a fucking war. So he like faked his death, and he did try to bring her down with him, I guess, that day, because she had felt guilty because she refused to go with him. She refused to unalive at that point, and she just watched him drive off the cliff. So she thought that he was dead, but no, apparently not. And like, now she's like, oh my god, this guy tried to freaking kill me. And he purposely put thoughts of Glendon in Killian's head to start his obsession with her, because he knew that hearing about how pure she was gonna draw Killian's attention. So he beats the shit out of Glyndon and leaves her for dead. And then Killian finds her because ever since she ignored him, he put a fucking tracker on her phone. And he finds her. She goes to the hospital. And then Landon and the heathens go and beat the shit out of everyone in the serpent house. Beats the shit out of Devlin. He ends up getting his arm broken. So that was fun. You know what? No, she wasn't at the hospital. He brought her to his room and Brandon stayed to watch him. I'm mixing books up, sorry. So he brings her to his room and then Brandon's taking care of her. And then Landon and the heathens go and beat the shit out of the serpents. And then Killian was like, I don't give a fuck about this broken arm. I don't give a fuck about anything. I'll set the whole fucking world on fire to make sure she stays safe. And amazing. Like, what a fucking man. And like, yeah, he's a little bit psychotic, but you can never say he doesn't love Glyndon, and he's obsessed with Glyndon, and he will protect Glyndon. And that is like, it was amazing. And it's why Killian's my favorite. I mean, I don't know how I'm going to feel once I get through the rest of these books, but right now I've read 3 and Killian's still on top for me. Like, first 2 chapters aside, let's get past that fucking area right there. Killian is obsessed, and like a good obsessed. And he's funny and he's sarcastic, and he doesn't even realize that he's being sarcastic, and he doesn't understand. But all he knows is Glyndon is his, and that's who he's going to protect, and that's what he cares about, and all he cares about is Glyndon. And who could ask for anything else? So now we're going to move on to God of Pain. Creighton and Annika. Now, these are all, again, Pinterest pictures I just found because they haven't announced, at least to my understanding, that they're going to be making a show. So I couldn't think of any actors that I could put in this. So they're not real people. They're just pictures I found on Pinterest. So trigger warnings for this book. There's talks of child abuse. There's suicidal thoughts. There is severe BDSM. Like, you thought fucking 50 Shades was bad. This is fucking bad. And then there's also a slight mild kidnapping in there. That anyway, so if any of those are triggers for you, you can leave for that. Here we go. Annika Volkov is a mafia princess, and she is a student at REU. She is from America. Her brother is Jeremy. He is the leader of the heathens, and he hates the kings like Landon and Brandon because they're part of the rival school. Landon is the leader of the elite, so obviously he hates them. Their parents are Adrian and Leah. She loves purple and animals, and she is very talkative. She has an immediate crush on Creighton in book 1. And he does not speak much, but it just makes her want to bring him out of his shell more, make him be more open. And she lives with Glyndon, Ava, and Cecily technically, but she stays most of her time with Jeremy because he is super overprotective. And with they're part of the mafia, so of course he's super overprotected. And she is in the spot of, she's supposed to have an arranged marriage, but she doesn't want that life for herself. Then we get into Creighton. He is a student of the Royal Elite. He's not part of the elites. He just lives in the house because obviously that's his cousins and his brother. And he's a fighter because he likes to fight and he likes to unleash pain. His parents are Aiden and Elsa, and his brother is Eli, who is described to be the same as Killian, possibly worse. And he was adopted by the Kings. His birth parents died when he was 3, and it's weighed heavily on him. He has nightmares about it. He eats like a lunatic because he was at a point in his life where he didn't know when he was going to eat again. And he's determined to get revenge on whoever caused it, not because he cared about his parents, because his parents were pieces of shit, but because he had such a hard childhood until he got adopted, and he has that trauma, and he feels like no kid should have to have that trauma. He's into BDSM, and he goes with Landon to these sex clubs to unleash those demons. And he thinks that Annika's annoying when he first meets her. So we're gonna have the beginning and the overlap of book 1 and 2. It's told around the same time as Glendon and Killian's story, so info does get repetitive in between. Landon is helping Creighton find out the truth behind his parents' death, and it's like, in return, you have to spend time with me, because I feel like Landon's lonely, and he has to like manipulate people to get them to spend time with him. There's a small fire that he sets at the heathen's like mansion where the security office is or whatever, and he barges into Annika's room from her balcony in a mask, and she immediately knows it's him when she sees his eyes, because his eyes are so distinct. She says that they're like blue with like a black rim around them, and she just knew it was him. But she hid him in the room and told her security, nobody's here, and told Jeremy nobody's here, and then he ends up leaving. So she confronts him about it later on. So he goes to this club with Landon, and then he realizes that he can't stop thinking about Annika, and he doesn't know why, because he feels like he thinks that she's annoying. So he talks to her here and there, and she's like getting confused that he talks to her. And she did try to like blackmail him to spend more time with her by saying, "Oh, I know it was you, and if you don't tell me, like, if you don't spend time with me, I'm gonna tell my brother it was you." And he goes, "Fucking tell him. I don't care." And she's like, but they end up talking more anyway. It's like she doesn't tell Jeremy, and then she ends up making him a bunch of food, but he eats it, but it's gross. He says it's gross. Everyone says that this girl cannot cook. And she made him like fish and chips, and it was like too salty. So she talks to her mom on the phone, and she tells her mom if she's in love, does she have to have an arranged marriage? And her mom's like, no, if you fall in love, then I'll convince your dad not to marry you off. And that's where she comes up with a plan with the girls that Bran should be her fake boyfriend to war off the parents, and then she'll be free. And Creighton's like, why Bran? Why not me? And she was like, no, Bran's better. And she goes, why? And he goes, because Bran is talkative and you don't have to force him to talk. And Creighton gets pissed because he doesn't like the idea of Annika dating Bran, even if it's fake. And he starts showing up to her shelter where she volunteers. He tells her not to ask Brandon to be her fake boyfriend or to ask anyone else, because she could have asked Remy or anything else. And she does it anyway. They go to the girls' dorm and have like dinner, and they have like these little hangouts all the time. But she doesn't start the conversation. I think Ava did, but she does ask Bran, and he goes, yeah, I'll do it. And then Creighton gets up and fucking leaves, and then she doesn't hear from him or anything, but he finds her in the shelter office, locks her in there, and punishes her. And I'm talking like smacking ass so hard that like she is marked, and he is thrilled by the mark. He loves the fact that he's marking her. And that's when Little Purple is born. He starts calling her Little Purple, and when she's like, why do you call me that? He's like, you're the personification of the word purple to me. And then that's when he claims her as his, because she is curious about like what he's into and all that stuff. And he goes, no, you're not any other man's, you're mine. So then there's a fire at the mansion, and a real fire at the actual mansion. And it ended up being the serpents who did it. Eli tells Creighton about it because Landon is the one that kind of set it up in a way. And he's like texting the girls like, oh, is Annika there? And she goes, no, she's staying at the mansion. So he rushes over to save her, and then helps Jeremy because Annika refuses to leave Jeremy behind. But then the heathens think he started the fire, so they like hit him over the head and then start to torture him. But Annika lies and says that he was with her all night, and then they tell Jeremy that she was with him all night, and Jeremy puts her on like house arrest, and she tries to shut out Creighton because she doesn't want anything to get any worse since she's already been put on house arrest. And he gets angry because she's answering everyone else but not him, so he again punishes her in the office. And she tells him like if he wants to own her, that he has to start taking her on dates. Like she's not for this, she's not going to take this kind of markings basically if he's not dating her properly. So he starts dating her properly. They go to movies, they eat lunch together. He opens up about his childhood to her after the first time they actually hook up, and it's like it is really sad. I won't get too much into it. Basically like something happened to his dad, and his dad got ruined and then killed him, and then got killed, and then his mom tried to kill him, Creighton, and herself, but Creighton did not end up dying. Um he doesn't like when people touch her. Like anyone tries to touch her, even her friends, he gets really like upset. Remy tried to put his arm around her and he smacked the shit out of his hand and said, "Don't touch." And or his favorite line is no touching. So anytime she gets mouthy, he starts counting, and she knows like the counting is a number of punishments. Like if she's talking too much, he'll just say 1, 2, and she's like, but, and then every time until she's quiet, he just keeps saying numbers. And then they have their first like kiss in the rain. Like a lot of these first kisses happen so late. Like it starts raining and they were in the middle of a picnic, and she runs under the thing, but he likes the rain, and he makes her come out into the rain, and she's like, "Oh, I'll be in the rain if you dance with me." And they kind of like do a weird dancing thing, but then they kiss, and he's never kissed any. That's how he says it. He's never kissed anyone, and it was like now he has to kiss her all the time. And he's scheduled to fight Nikolai, and he sees his brother talking to Annika and becomes like enraged. He doesn't like seeing other men talk to her, so he tells her to stop following Eli on social media and stop following other men in general on social media, and stop worshiping Tchaikovsky because she loves classical music because she does ballet. And he's like, "No, I don't like the idea of you thinking and being obsessing over other men." And that's when they have sex for the first time, and she loses her virginity. And it's once he realizes it's her virginity, he's like really sweet about it, and it's not like rough at all, which for him is crazy. And then he takes her to the bath, opens up about his childhood again to her, and she asks too many questions, and then he gets mad again. And then it actually ends up being her birthday. And she was upset because he had said that he had plans for her birthday, and he's like, "My plans were with you. Why are you upset?" And she was like, "Oh, okay." So it's her birthday, and he gets her this cute little purple diamond necklace. And she was upset a few weeks ago because at the shelter, this cat that she loved, Tiger, was adopted. And then she comes to find out now that she's at his house that he adopted the cat for her so that she could be at his house and be comfy because he knows how much she loved the cat. And she ends up going to the kitchen later, and all the guys are trying to help Creighton make her a cake, but it ends up going really horribly. So Remy just buys one from the store. And then they go to the like store together later after one of their many dates, and Jeremy finds them and gets pissed, yanks her away from him, tells Creighton to stay away, and Creighton gets really angry, and he goes, "You're not taking her from me. You can't take her from me." And she's like, "Don't worry, let me handle this. I will talk to him." And Jeremy basically tells her like, "If you can convince Dad, I'll let you be." So they fly back to New York, and the whole purpose is so she can convince her dad. And she just tells Creighton that she's going to handle it, she's going to figure it out. And he doesn't respond to her because he's trying to let her figure it out. But it doesn't work because her mom sees the picture of Creighton and is like, "No, I don't want you with this guy. You need to break up with him. I'm not helping you." And that's that. And she has to cut Creighton off. So Creighton finds out why, and the reason why she wants her to stay away from him is because they're the reason behind his parents' death. Apparently the mom got assaulted by Creighton's dad, so Annika's dad had him killed and then ruined his career, like put all this stuff out about him, and then the wife tried to kill him, but they also saved Creighton and made sure he went to a good home, and that's why how he ended up with the Kings. So he ended up kidnapping Nico to lure out Jeremy because they're friends and shit. And Nico's a freaking psychopath and is like, nope, I'm not gonna let you use me. I'm not gonna let you hold this over Jeremy's head. And he like leans his neck forward and slits his own throat. So he's just fucking bleeding out on the floor when and like everyone he's a lunatic and he's just bleeding on the floor. And then Creighton ends up going to stab Jeremy, and Annika has a gun and she's like, if you stab my brother, I'm gonna shoot you, because she is a good shot. And he stabs Jeremy in the arm because he wants to be shot, and he knows Annika's a good shot, so he's hoping she leans up to that. But he stabs him in the arm, and she shoots Creighton in the chest. But she missed his heart. So he almost died, and then everyone hates Annika. And she goes back home with her parents because she feels so guilty, and she doesn't have any friends now because she chose her brother over Creighton. But he realizes, like, no, I can't live without her. I'm not going to let her go like that. So he has Cecily meet her in the park and trick her to come with her to meet her up. And he ends up kidnapping her, putting her on a plane to an island, an unknown island, and they stay there eventually until the dad finds them somehow, which we find out in the next book how he found them. And Annika decides she's going to try to, it's like a week or two goes by, maybe a month, a while goes by. And she's like, I just want to see my family. I don't want to be isolated, just me and you. Can't I just go home and be with my family? And he goes, if you're not going to be with me, then no, you can't go home. So she does try to self-exit, but he tells her, like, no, I'll take you home. And then the dad shows up and kind of messes it up. And then she tries to shoot herself again instead of having to make the choice again between her family and him. But he confesses his love for her and is like, I'm not going to make you choose. I would never do that. And then the dad accepts him, sort of, because he's not really happy about it, but he accepts him and they live happily ever after. And honestly, like, their story, it was cute, but it wasn't my favorite. I don't know. I think it was like too up and down, like it felt like so much was going on at once. And I was like, I felt it was so much, like, I would not have been able as Creighton to get over the fact that my girlfriend, the girl that I'm in love with, parents kind of killed my parents, almost got me killed. But it's the way he was trying to get her to just forget her entire family. And he didn't want, like, if you love her like you say you do, she shouldn't have to forget her whole family. But I still love Creighton. Like, I love this guy, and I feel like there's something wrong with me because I'm like, I love all of them and I can find a good in all of them. Now we're gonna move on to Jeremy. God of Wrath, book-wise, my favorite book so far. I still have 2.5 to go. But Jeremy and Cecily's story is just, I don't know. There's something about enemies to lovers. I just love it. I just love it. It's almost as good as fake dating. It's just so good. So, trigger warnings are primal kinks and primal play, dub consent, and mentions of sexual assault. So, this is how it goes. Cecily is a student at the Royal Elite, and she is a self-proclaimed nerdy girl. The nerd of the group. Everyone calls her that. Her parents are Xander and Kimberly, and her friends are Glendon, Ava, Annika, Eli, Creighton, Brandon, Remy, and Landon. And Landon is her crush. She is in love with him. She has this trauma response where she ends up going catatonic from time to time, which means, like, she's just frozen in place and she cannot move. Like, her mind is there, but she cannot move. She likes manga, and she has a secret primal kink. She's a virgin, so it's like she knows she likes it, but she's never tried anything yet. And she's hoping to the fact that is something that interests her is something that can get her to be with Landon. Jeremy is the leader of the Heathens. He is a mafia prince, student at King's U, and his parents are Adrian and Leah. His sister is Annika. His friends are Gareth, Killian, Nikolai, and in the middle of the book, Ilya. And in the previous books, he has called Cecily boring, and he has a deep hatred for Landon. So the beginning starts with the initiation from the first book, and which is why I say it overlaps. Cicely uses Creighton's invite for Landon, because Landon asked her to spy on them, to see what they're doing. She like makes it and is like basically hiding, and almost immediately catches the attention of Jeremy. Immediately. And he catches her and interrogates her of what she's doing there, but she doesn't talk. You know, he's choking her with his fucking golf club. And he's like, why are you here? Why are you here? And she gets away by like, you know, he like says, oh, what's gonna stop him from killing her? And she was like, if you're gonna kill me, at least fuck me first, because I don't want to die a virgin. And he was like, I don't fuck virgins. And then she like finds a way to sneak out of him, and then goes to meet up with Landon afterwards. And then she draws a map of the mansion for him, like the layout of everything and the woods and where the cameras are. And she really wants to hook up with him, so she joins this app that Creighton had told her about that he has, and she puts answers into purposely ensure she gets Landon, and then immediately gets a match. And then they end up going back to that party again from the first book, and she goes to meet up with her match, and she's 100% sure it's Landon. The guy comes up behind her, tells her to run. So she starts running, and then when he catches her, she realizes it's Jeremy because of the accent, or the lack of accent, and he calls her I don't know how to say it, Lashika or something like that, but I love it. I don't know why. I love it. That's where his nickname for her starts. It means little fox in Russian, as he said to her. And they hook up, but not like all the way. It's like he fingers her, and then we find out he hacked into her phone to read her text messages, and hacked into her app to make sure that she matched with him. And he is pissed that she wanted it to be Landon. She's pissed that she likes Landon, because it infuriates him that she would want Landon when he feels like Landon is worse than him. So then he starts stalking her from far away. And like, she notices it, but she doesn't say anything, because she's hoping he'll just leave her alone. She tells Landon about it, and Landon tells her to just make it boring for him, just ignore him, he'll stop eventually. And then she ends up putting her headphones on to try to ignore him, and there are two guys following her that he ends up beating up. And then he takes her to dinner at a club where you can see Landon hooking up with another girl from one of her kinks, and she's kind of heartbroken about it. So she has this thing where she gets sick anytime she sees sex because of her past. She had an ex-boyfriend who tried to assault her, and he drugged her, so she ended up becoming catatonic. And the only reason why he did not rape her was because she ended up throwing up as a response. So he ended up just leaving. And now ever since then, anytime something triggers that in her, she goes catatonic. So Jeremy, having noticed that from all the stalking he's been doing, he tries to get her to snack out of it a little bit. And he tries a couple things that don't work, so he ends up spitting his vodka in her mouth, and that helps her. And then they end up like making out, because he just can't help himself. Once their lips touch, he's like has to kiss her. And you know, she's like grinding up against him, and then she's out of it, and she's like, why would you show me that? Like, that's so cruel. And he goes, I just wanted you to see him for who he is. And she was like, he's different. And he gets really pissed off, and then brings her home, because he can't imagine why she thinks he's different after just seeing that. And then he disappears for like 2 weeks, but it's she realizes that he's not, she thinks that he's not watching her, but he definitely is. And then she gets drunk with the friends. I believe it's the same night that Annika asks for Bran to be her fake boyfriend. It might be, I don't know, I don't remember. But she gets drunk, and then she's like Instagram stalking Landon and then Jeremy, and she ends up thinking she's DMing Landon to come over And she ends up DMing Jeremy, and he comes over and goes down on her and calls her his new favorite meal, and then she falls asleep, and he is in his head obsessing over how she once again probably wanted Landon and not him. And he goes through her room, finds her search history of all the kinks that she is into, and it becomes more infatuated. And then he takes pictures of her room and basically to keep a memory of all her favorite things, and then takes one of her favorite mangas, and he's about to leave, but then Landon texts her phone, and he reads the text messages, pretends to be her, and tells her that she'll be careful around Jeremy because that's what he's checking in on her about. And Landon tells her, "Oh, that's my sis." And Jeremy gets pissed because he's like, "She's not yours, she's mine." And he deletes the text messages and then leaves. And then he sends her the location to like a private cottage that he owns, and they engage in primal play. Which, if you, I should have said it before, but if you don't know, primal play is like consensual. It's like a stranger chasing you down and then taking you against your will, or at least feels like it's taking you against your will. And that's something that Cecily's into, and she's kind of ashamed of being into it, so she doesn't really tell anybody. But after she goes to sleep, after they engage in that, she goes catatonic again, and he tries to wake her with oral. But while he's going down on her, he says something to her of he's gonna make her forget about Landon. And in her brain, she's trying to say like Lan isn't even on my mind right now, but all that comes out is Lan. And then he disappears again because he's pissed, because he's tired of her bringing up Landon. He's like sick of having to compete with this guy. So the turning point is he starts like ignoring her. And then Landon and Jeremy are in like that fighting thing. And they get into a fight, and he sees her. So Landon whispers in Jeremy's ear and is like, "Don't be mad that the girl you love fancies me." And then Landon, Jeremy beats the shit out of Landon. He also texts her showing her a video of the burning mansion that happened in the second book, and that's where she sees Landon for who he is, rushing to check on Jeremy because Jeremy did get hurt, and nobody will let her in. But Ilya is telling her that he's recovering, and that's when she finally was like, okay, he's recovering, that's fine. And that's when we get introduced to Nikolai's twin sisters, Maya and Mia. Well, we already met Mia, but we get introduced to Maya, and she shows to the mansion to check on them, and they let her in, obviously. And Cecily kind of gets a little jealous because Maya has a thing for Jeremy, but Jeremy doesn't really have a thing for her. But he doesn't tell Cecily any of that. So he reveals to Cecily that for the time that he was mad at her, he was having Ilya watch her. And then Cecily is done with Landon, but Landon ends up showing up to her job because, as we find out in book 4, he's into Mia, and Mia's been hanging out a lot with Jeremy, so he can't have that. So he shows up to Cecily's job and is like, "Oh, you can't be mad at me anymore." And basically he's pretending like he cares that she's mad at him, and then he admits that he knows that she was in love with him, and she goes, I wasn't in love with you, I just thought I was." And he was like, "Oh, that's fine, because Jeremy doesn't know that. Jeremy thinks you're in love with me. He has people watching me like I have people watching him. That's how I know about you guys. Also, do you think that he knows I'm here yet?" And then he leans in like he's gonna kiss her, but he doesn't get the chance to because Jeremy shows up and like flings him across the room. And then Mia is with him, and she kicks him in the balls or whatever. And Jeremy's like, "Oh, you stay away from her." And he goes, "No, me and Cecily have a date." And he goes, "The fuck you do? You don't have a date. She's mine. Leave her the fuck alone." And he goes, "Well, don't forget, you love me first, Cecily." And that's when he leaves with Mia, and we get more into that in book 4, which will be in the book 4 video. And they kind of like hook up and get back together, but then they break up again because all the shit that happened in book 2 happens. And he's like, Cecily, you know where you know where they are, you know where they went. You helped him. You need to tell me. And they kind of confess their feelings. They become boyfriend and girlfriend, and she feels bad and she tells him, and he's like, thank you for telling me. But then he gets, pissed off again because he just keeps getting pissed off because he feels like he's in competition with Landon. He's not in competition with Landon anymore, and he just can't get over it. And then he leaves her alone again, and Cecily almost gets assaulted by some guy that she thought was her friend. He was just posing as her friend. It turns out that the guy that her ex-boyfriend had like a bunch of guys come and try and like avenge him. Mind you, throughout the entirety of this book, people who have messed with Cecily just end up disappearing or having bad things happen to them. Like there were guys at the club who tried to harass her while she was catatonic, and because he said something to her that like the ex-boyfriend said to her during everything that happened to her, and she like froze, and Jeremy beat the shit out of them and put one of them in a coma and got the ex-boyfriend put in prison for all the stuff that he's done and got the pictures deleted. He got a professor sent away that was mean to her, and he's just constantly doing things to protect her the whole time in the background, and she doesn't even realize it. And that's when she does realize that he does love her. But then he ends up like, when she almost gets assaulted again by the guy's friend, he like slits the guy's throat basically above, and the blood, she's covered in the guy's blood. And he tells her like, I will do it again. I would do anything to protect you. And she's like, I just can't be with you because I can't keep doing this up and down thing with you. If you can't have me and then treat me this way and all that crap. And he's like, okay, well, I love you, so I'm gonna be with you anyway. So he spends like almost the whole summer stalking her life on the boardwalk and following her everywhere. And it's not like she doesn't know he's following her. She knows it. He's everywhere. And then it ends up getting to the point that Ilya tells her that Jeremy's dying. And she's like, why didn't you just tell me you were sick? Why didn't you tell me you were dying? And he's like, the fuck are you talking about? And she goes, if I had known you were dying, I would have like made up with you sooner. And he goes, oh, so does that mean you forgive me? And she goes, I forgave you a long time ago. I'm just so sorry we have less time. And he goes, baby, I'm not dying. Who told you that? And she goes, Ilya said you were dying. He goes, well, you know what? You guys were taking too long to get back together, and I was getting bored of this. So just get back together. And they get back together. Also, her dad hates him. He keeps calling him a lizard. And I don't know why. He just keeps it's so fucking funny. So they end up together, and he like finally is over the whole Landon thing because he realizes she doesn't actually like Landon, and it's a huge thing with him that she says his name when they're doing it. So the book basically ends with her just screaming his name while they're having their fun. And yeah, I was obsessed, like I enjoyed it a lot. I enjoyed because I felt like the jealousy thing was like a real life struggle. It's hard to you are infatuated with somebody, but they can't get somebody out of their mind. Meanwhile, it's not even like she's really in love with him. She just feels like she is. She's infatuated by this guy, and it's hard to compete with an infatuation. But once she gets over it, it's like it's hard for him to shake because how would she know if she's really over it, And it's just, it was great. I loved it. I loved all 3 books. I gave them each 5. No, I gave God of Malice and God of Wrath 5 stars. I gave God of Pain 4 stars just because like I did love it, but again, maybe the pain part isn't for me. I didn't like that. I didn't like the idea of it. But you know what? To each their fucking own. So there won't be a video on Wednesday, but Friday we are going to be live reacting to Petal on the premiere day. So you can catch me in that video, and Thank you for joining me today. I hope I filled you in a lot of information. I hope I made you guys want to read these books if they're for you, if they're your vibe, if anything I just said to you made you curious. I would definitely start it, because I've started and now I can't stop. And Monday's video will be probably on the ARC books that I have read this week. And then next Monday will be on the other 3 books of the Legacy of God series. But that is all for today, and have a good one, besties. See you Friday.